welcome to everyone who is gathering. We are just going to get started in a few minutes, just giving everyone a few minutes to move between meetings and get settled. So just about 1 or 2 minutes more. Should be a good crew today. I'm excited. Oh, let me turn off nobody needs to see all my news notifications while we're doing this.
All your shopping deals.
Yeah. No, it's all news. Very pertinent stuff.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny. I know you can learn a lot about a person if they leave their notifications on during a presentation, I'll tell you. All right, just maybe 1 minute more. You know, Danielle, there is something about me and my Zoom where it will not let me bring up the Q&A anymore. I do not know what is happening there, but I will rely upon you to let us know what's happening in that space.
Wonderful. Somebody just said, hi, Katie.
No. So. Hi.
Hi, Carlos.
Hi, Carlos. Hi, Carlos. Nice to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and get started? We always have the logistics to do at the beginning. So if people are still trickling in, no big deal. So welcome everyone to our webinar. Today we are joined by some great folks from WGU Academy, who I'll introduce in a second. They're going to talk about how they have rolled out digital communities with Inscribed and the positive impact that's having for their students and for their support teams in terms of some decreased costs and calls there. So my name is Katie Kapler. I am co-founder and CEO at Inscribed. So a few logistics. We are recording this webinar. We'll send that out to you afterwards, so you'll have a copy. If you have questions along the way, please, we definitely want to hear from you. We'd love for this to be conversational, even though we are in this webinar format. So you can post those in the chat, which is great because then everybody can see them and join. We're big proponents of that. You can also post them in the Q&A. I'm joined today by Danielle Bonner from the Inscribed team. She's going to help me keep track of what's happening in the chat and Q&A, and she has full license to interrupt me at any moment. So we make sure that we get to all of the great questions during and throughout the presentation. I will just say quickly, for those of you who may not be familiar with Inscribed, we are a virtual community platform. We are designed to wrap around the content and curriculum at your institution and provide a space for your students to connect with peers, faculty, and staff. So when they have questions or need help, they have one place where they can go and they can rely on those folks to give them assistance. We work at lots of different sort of stages across the learning journey. Today, we're going to look at an example. I would call it sort of an academic example where we're wrapping around curriculum, which it is, but you'll learn in a minute that the type of curriculum that we're engaged with at WGU Academy is really interesting and original. So with that, I will jump into the session. So I'm again joined by some great panelists today. So first, I want to introduce Dr. Cherie Kroh. Dr. Kroh is Academic Program Manager, and she oversees the learning experience for students at Western Governors University Academy. WGU Academy is a startup in education, and they use coaching, psychology, and social emotional learning to engage students and help them prepare for post-baccalaureate college experience. Dr. Kroh began her work at the Academy helping to develop this coaching model, and which is used to support the students on their journey. And she also established their coaching department. She has now moved on to really focus on the learning experience with all the academic courses and to ensure that students have an exceptional time. I'm also really excited to introduce Tiffany Baldonado. Cherie tried to help me with this before we started. Baldonado, who is one of the student success coaches at WGU Academy. She has been a student success coach for almost 2 years, loves the work that she does, including helping to facilitate learning with PACA, the Introduction to Communication and Reflective Development courses. Getting learners to the finish line and on the way to obtaining their undergraduate degree is top of Tiffany's priority list every day. And she has a bachelor's degree in psychology and is working with people to help change their lives, which is a huge passion and career dream of hers. So she is really going to be the person that helps us understand the model and go deep on all the exciting experiences that the WGU Academy students and coaches have. So while we get started, it would be great to know who's joining us today. So if you have a minute, please jump in the chat and just let us know who you are, where you're from. And if there's something really specific that you want to make sure you learn today or you want us to touch on today, please put it in there and we will definitely weave that into the conversation. I usually do a little spiel about, what brings us here today. I think in a lot of our conversations, we've been thinking about things like, how do we help students remain feeling connected? The disconnect that everybody felt last year with COVID has really brought that conversation to the forefront. What's interesting is the folks at WGU Academy, because all of their students have always been virtual and continue to be, is that they've been thinking about this challenge for a long time. And so you'll see today, it's really woven into all of the things that they think and do. But one of the other things I know people are thinking about is, how do we serve students and provide this sense of connection and community and support, but do it in a way that is cost effective for the institution, and that allows the support people that are helping students really put their energies into the highest value activities. So that's a lot about what we're going to talk about today, and hopefully some things that are interesting to you folks. So with that, Cherie, I'm going to ask you to maybe just tell everyone, not everyone here is probably familiar with WGU Academy. I'm sure a lot of folks have heard of Western Governors University, but it'd be great if you wanted to talk a little bit about the school itself and your relationship with WGU.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks so much for having us today. Really appreciate it. WGU Academy is a not-for-profit startup under the corporate arm of Western Governors University. So meaning we don't fall under higher ed laws, regulations, we're a business, right? So we are able to do things a little bit differently than maybe higher ed can. But really what we are is a college readiness program to get students prepared for their four-year degree. Mainly right now it's preparing them for a degree at Western Governors University, but we have many other clients where we're preparing them for other universities and other associate degree type programs and even community type programs. So the big carrot with WGU Academy is that if you graduate from our program, and I'll explain what that is, you receive guaranteed admission into WGU. So not everybody is admitted to WGU. In fact, there are hundreds of thousands of students that are rejected every year from college and then give up. And we're hoping that we can bring this market back into the fold, because we believe everybody has the potential and the ability to get a four-year degree. It's not so much a cognitive thing, it's a non-cognitive thing. Yeah, I'll get to that too. So what we do is provide very low cost, $150 a month type program where students usually complete in 2 to 3 months. And what the program is 2 academic courses, personal coaching, and then if they pass those 2 courses and do some personal coaching, they're running off onto WGU for their four-year degree with guaranteed admission. So the courses are fully transferable. They are one course the students pick depending on what program they're going into. And the other course is Introduction to Communication, which we have labeled the program for academic and career. I'm blanking on the A. Tiffany, what's the A? Program for Academic and Career Advancement. Okay, sorry about that. So we call it PACA. And how PACA is different, although it's an Introduction to Communications course, it's different in that it's really focused on the non-cognitive reasons why students don't succeed in school. Self-efficacy, confidence, self-esteem, self-determination, lack of support at home, lack of support from a spouse, like all those other reasons that students don't move forward and get their four-year degree. So most of our students are, well, of course, they're all online. Most of them have never taken an online class. They are almost all underserved, non-traditional, and a lot of our students are adults returning to school after 20 years of post-high school. So they haven't been to school since high school. Very busy, obviously have full-time jobs, family, taking care of elderly parents, the gamut. So you can go to the next slide.
Yeah, and I'm sure that that's a demographic of students that a lot of folks on this call can relate to. So I love the model, and And this was, we're going to just talk a little bit more about that. We'll call it PACA from now on.
Yeah, that's terrible, but I don't know the last word. Like, what is that
Sometimes
again?
acronyms just take over, and then you're like, I never really knew what that stood for. It's just the acronym. Do you want to talk to this, Cherie, or do you want Tiffany to jump in?
No, I'm happy to do it. So what we built the entire Academy experience around is developing a thriving mindset. It's obviously growth mindset would be a part of this, but it's really about developing the students' emotional intelligence, self-awareness, communication skills, goal setting, and self-efficacy are our primary foci. So it is very different in that we embed this within communication sort of competencies, and it's really focused on developing skills to get them to succeed in their four-year degree. So we're actually looking down the road when they're in their four-year degree or not to see if we're successful. It's not just getting them through Academy, it's 2 years later, are they using these skills, and have we built up their self-efficacy enough for them to feel like, I'm a college student and I can do this, right? If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can. That's kind of our goal. Okay, so
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
No.
Okay, I'm going on.
You keep going.
Yeah, so the PACA program, essentially, what we think is our secret sauce is our personal coaching. Students meet with a personal coach one-on-one. Our peer support, which comes in the form of Inscribe, and obviously our classes are live synchronous, so there's the cohort model. So those two things really embed our peer support. And then this focus on developing a thriving mindset as a skill set to get you through your four-year degree and life. And that's how it's these three things we feel are the reason why our students succeed and get through their four-year degree. Okay, so students are grouped into cohorts, like I said, and they have a dedicated personal one-on-one coach, and they have a dedicated PACA coach. So similar to like a course instructor that support them through the experience. And that double support system, we really feel helps students in particular that are underserved and have never been to college before. They have different needs than I think a traditional college student. So we're really trying to focus on the non-traditional student that needs that extra support.
Awesome. And I know like building this type of on-ramp course is something that a lot of institutions have been thinking about, or how they're adjusting their orientations and really thinking about it more as like a process that students are going through versus a point in time. So it's really interesting to see the model you guys have come up with. So you have an existing great concept and coaching model. So what was it about how you're rolling out PACA, for example, that you started to think there's something missing here, we'd like to bring in this kind of digital community concept to facilitate?
Yeah, great question. So we had our students go rogue and form their own Facebook group. It's called Baby Owls, which we don't have the owl moniker, just to be clear, like if anyone from marketing is watching. But we noticed the impact, the type of questions that were getting asked in this Facebook group. They let us join. The entire staff is in the group. And so we realized, we knew this all along, we just hadn't gotten to the point yet, but we realized that this needs to be more top priority. The peer support and peers answering each other's questions and peers supporting each other and cheering each other on. We know that increases belonging. So we knew we needed immediately to find a digital solution for this. And that's how we came to Inscribe, and a digital solution that's very scalable. Obviously, we plan to have many more students at Academy. We're only 2 years old. So we were really looking for someone to partner with that we could really scale with and provide support outside of the normal 8 to 5.
I don't think your experience with students going rogue is unique, by the way. We definitely talked to a lot of institutions where that's the case. And I think they have have had a similar thought process. One, which is not that they didn't know that students were seeking that, but like feeling more accountability to be proactive and kind of meet the students where they wanted and needed them to be. And then the other thing we sometimes hear is when they do go out to these outside systems, they lose visibility sometimes into like, what are they talking about, who's participating? And so the opportunity to bring it into a space where they have a little bit more control of the design and a little more visibility just into the data and analytics, which we'll talk about in a minute, has proven to be like a big positive for a lot of folks. So I know you started by really focusing on the PACA course and how you can wrap communities around that. So why don't we talk a little bit about that design? Oh, I forgot. I've got ahead of myself. So for the participants as well, would love to know if you've thought about, well, so let's put it this way. Have your students gone rogue? Have you experienced that before? Do you see them forming community and conversation outside of the systems that you're providing? And has anybody tried, to build those systems in-house? What's been your strategy or your experience with that? If you want to answer any of those myriad questions in the chat, that would be great. And while you're doing that, we'll talk a little bit about how the digital communities found their way into WGU Academy, what that design looks like, and a little bit about the experience there. So Tiffany, I believe we're gonna have you kind of walk us through this.
So prior to the PackALobby, they really had the, well, first, thank you for allowing me to be here today. I should say that first. So prior to the PackALobby, back to Cherie's point, they were using the Baby Owls Facebook page. And so that was their page. We weren't really monitoring it as heavy as we do the PackALobby. And so to your point, Katie, or to the questions in the chat, bringing it in-house is the first step that we did with the PackALobby. So we've been using this since February, so it's been a few months now. And what the PackALobby does for our students is how it says an integrated, model of the course that these students can always click on when they're going through their homework. So it's when they're going through each of their homework pages, they have the PackALobby at the top, which you see here on the screen. And when they click on that, then that's where they get to the community of the PackALobby. So here we encourage our students. So PACA is 7 weeks long. So every 7 weeks, and they're constantly running. So it's on a continuous basis. So students are forever using the lobby. And the good thing about the lobby is that it's available to them throughout their whole time at the academy. So not only the 7 weeks, so they can always go back to reference it. So the big thing about the lobby is what we promote is where the students can go and connect with other learners, get resources, ask questions, get tips and tricks on how to submit videos and things like that. So outside of PACA, because that's only 90 minutes, this is just transitions over so they can keep those conversations going if need be.
That's great. Yeah. And again, that's one of the sort of advantages of bringing that application in-house is having that really tight integration, making sure that the access is right at the student's fingertips and available to all students. I mean, we know some students aren't comfortable on Facebook or, maybe don't, want to go to some of these other platforms or don't know that they're supposed to go there. And so this is sort of a way to be very inclusive and make it the access really easy. I meant to pause before we jumped into this to see are there any questions, Danielle, that we should address?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in the chat.
Sorry, I should have
I've been just waiting for the right time to interrupt. And I've been trying to answer the questions as we go along. The first one I think that we should probably address is kind of going back to the Facebook use case.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of using Inscribed digital communities over like the Facebook groups?
If I can hop on, I should have added this, what I was saying previously. The beauty of this is that it's different from the Baby Owls is that it's constantly monitored by moderators. So currently right now, there's 4 moderators who watch it around the clock. Not 24 hours, but very close to that, 7 days a week. And so they have that support from the moderators, which is very different from the Facebook, because really the Facebook is just the students connecting with one another. But here they actually have that professional support from the moderators. And then in addition to the moderators is what's really good about it is that students are also able to answer the questions. And so if they come across something that they didn't know, or that maybe even we don't know as moderators, then the students can hop in as well and answer the questions. So it's a twofold, moderators and the community with the other students.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That kind of leads into a couple of other questions that we're receiving here. So is the community open access? Meaning, do you preload students in there, or is it invite only, or how are they finding it?
That is really a great question. So it is open to all learners in the PACA course, how I said, from when they enroll until when they complete the academy. And they initially, so how I said before, they see it on the top of each homework page. So how you see it on the screen, where they can get, get feedback, ask tech support issues, the PackALobby is on each page there. And then also they receive emails too. They get the email of the lobby is up and running, and then they get emails if someone posted on one of their posts, or they can even make it to where they just get like an overall email a day. So it's constant interacting. And then even we mention it in PACA at the end of each live session, and then students are talking about it, whether it be in the PACA cohorts or through the BBL's Facebook page.
So then the next question.
Sorry, Danielle, I'm just going to add one thing really quickly. So in the Inscribed Community, so in this case, WGU Academy has chosen, it's a private community to the Academy and to the students that are in the PACA course, but anyone in the course can then join. You could preload your students if you want to, so it kind of works both ways. Either you opt in, or we can preload you if that's something you guys would prefer. We do have examples of inscribed communities that are open access, meaning anybody can join. Of course, that's totally up to the institution, and it kind of depends on the use case that you're looking at. Sorry, go ahead, Danielle.
Perfect. Yeah, no problem. So I think this is a fantastic question. So are moderators supporting nights and weekends as well, or what hours are the moderators working?
Yes, that is a beautiful question. So although it's not 24 hours, it is Sunday through Sunday, or Sunday through Saturday, however you say that. And so so it starts in the morning, I want to say around 6 or 7, and then it goes all the way to like the evening around 4 or 5. And then yes, the weekends, it's from the morning, probably around 6, maybe till maybe 2 or 3 in the afternoon on the weekends. Yeah. But it's constantly being monitored, and we get emails as well. So as soon as something comes through, we're alerted, and then we can go into it. So our SLA is about 24 to 48 hours, but we're typically on it with on the hour though.
I think that was a great point too, that the system is sending out notifications about what's happening. So moderators aren't sort of sitting in the platform waiting for something to happen. They can just go about their day, and then when something does happen, they get that alert. And I think that SLA is pretty common with other folks that we work with. Their staffing hours can vary quite a bit. Some are, shorter, more business hours, but usually the SLA from the moderators is set around 24 to 48 hours. But again, the beauty is because you have all your students in there, and they can also help each other. If another student already knows the answer and they happen to be online, they can jump in and provide that support as well.
All right, lots of questions, guys. Keep them coming into the chat. So the next one is going to be, what are some tried and true methods of encouraging students to use online communities?
So that depends. So I could go on for a long time about this. So I'm going to be very concise try and be concise in my answer. When we work with institutions, we have a methodology we call the 4 Ps: purpose, placement, people, and plan. And we kind of walk through each of those as the main pillars that will help your community thrive. So being clear about the purpose of the community and making sure that purpose is valuable to students. Placing access to the community in places that are intuitive. So for example, right in front of them in their course, or on their portal, or in their email, or in text messages. Making sure that you have the right participants and folks in the community to provide the support and answers that are likely to happen there. And then having a great communication and announcement plan. So letting everybody know it's there, really demonstrating your commitment and enthusiasm for the community. So we go a lot deeper than that, but we have some great methodology. If you want to reach out to us, we can give you some other examples about how to make sure your communities are successful.
Can you share some of the common barriers you faced when rolling out online communities and how you overcome those?
Tiffany, did you run into any, or Cherie, did you guys run into any hiccups along the way?
One barrier is just getting them to automatically go to the lobby first, right?
Yeah.
That's a new behavior you need to train. And so you just have to work to train them, like the lobby is your first one-stop shop resource before anything else. But I think that's with anything new you introduce. You just have that period of having to train the behavior you want, and hopefully moving them off Facebook into Inscribed, because Facebook's a lot of misinformation that we struggle with. So we want to get them into Inscribed. Yeah.
There you go. Yes, training the behaviors that you want.
So I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and then I'll hold the questions so that we can get back to the presentation and then go from there. So have you applied this to the L&D framework so that workers can be supported and coached in their growth within the organization?
Oh, interesting. So this is more about using the community specifically for the coaches as a place where they can go and have conversations and questions. I don't think we've done that yet, but it's a great idea. We do have some other partners who use Inscribe for faculty-based communities, so professional development. They also are learning and have questions and need help as they're implementing new strategies. So we have some great examples of where folks have done that. And I think faculty also really appreciate having a place where they can connect with their peers and find resources as well.
Beautiful. One last question, and then we'll get back to it. Can Inscribe be used within the LMS, or where are we integrating here?
So this is the LMS that Academy uses. So yes, Inscribe integrates into all the major LMS platforms, but we don't have to stop there. So if it also makes sense to have integration points in other places, like on websites that you're hosting, on your student portal, we actually have some integrations directly with publisher courseware in some cases. So we'll kind of look at the use case that you're going after and the type of community you want to build, and then know that we can integrate into whatever tools and technologies you're already using.
Wonderful. I think that's it for now. Let's hold off on the
Okay, we'll come back. Now we have to remember where we were in the flow, Tiffany. So we were just describing the access point in the PACA course. We're going to click that PackALobby link, and now we launch over to Inscribe.
Yeah, so once the students or learners get to this page, they can either, coaches specifically are not in the lobby, so they're not moderating it. It's just the moderators separately. So if there's any coaching issues or anything like that, then the moderators would defer the students to then connect with their coach. But within the lobby, well, first and foremost, we just recently added the English lobby to our PackALobby. And so now students can use where it says the PackALobby to go to English, so they can get support on PACA and English now, which is really exciting. So now they get more support. And then right under where it says the PackALobby, they can browse by topic. So it's really user friendly. So they can just go to whatever. So how I said PACA 7 weeks, so they can just jump to whatever week it is, and then see if there's any questions that have already been asked, and then view any responses maybe before they go in and start a conversation.
That's great. Yeah, and we do find that when students are coming, if they have a specific question, they will definitely search for it first. So I think I saw something in the chat. That's another great advantage of a platform like this over some of the like a Facebook or social media, where if a question was asked a day ago, good luck ever finding that again. I mean, this platform is really designed to allow for reusability. So if you've already answered a question, you can easily find it, or another of your students can easily find it.
And the other part that's really nice about it as well is if we're responding to a student, we can easily attach like an article or like a previous post to that post, so they can, if they don't want to search for it, we can just put them right to that question previously.
Redirect them back there. Yeah, I think we may have the term coaches in here and some other, everyone just swap out coaches for moderators, and
yeah.
Sorry.
same stuff.
Like right here, for example, but we'll pretend. So I think we have a few slides where we're just showing examples of like the kinds of questions that are coming in and the types of interactions that are happening. And maybe we'll just talk through each of those examples one at a time.
So the first example, the journey map video, right? And so if they, so to be clear, even though it's the Academy, the PackALobby is specific for the PACA course. So they really can't come in here asking questions about like biology or you know, math or another course. It's specific to the PACA coursework. So the journey map is specific. So this one, for instance, they maybe didn't understand the instructions or, you know, how to, or really what it was asking. And so we would just go in there and, you know, either like post the instructions ourselves or just give them more clarification on what was being asked. And then the final assignment, same thing. You know, if they have any questions about when something's due, we'll go in. So pretty much just anything that encompasses PACA period, we support them on. And then Success Coach, this is a great example of how the coaches aren't involved, but they are involved. Because if they ask a question that's specific to something that they would want to speak with a coach about, maybe it's taking them too long to complete an assignment, then we would defer them to work with their coach to maybe talk about time management. And coaches are involved because they're also trying to get their students to come over to the PackALobby with questions. And so we're really trying to take the brunt of the work off the coaches and have them just focus more primarily on their job and send them to the PackALobby with any specific questions. And so that way there's that community of support and they feel supported that way.
Yeah, I love that. And I saw, Jeff, your post about the sort of give and take about repeat question, sort of wanting to reduce the number of repeat questions versus sort of honoring that person that has the question and giving them the human connection for the response. And I'll say, we have an example in a minute too that kind of speaks to this, but one of the things that's nice about this model is, first of all, Inscribed is a very human-first system. We've obscured everybody's identity in this presentation, but even if you find a question that somebody else has asked and answered, you can see the humans that were behind that question. And so what we get a lot from students is, I had a question, I was embarrassed to ask that question, or I thought I was the only person that had that question. And then when I go into the platform and I see, oh, actually, Tiffany asked this question, so I'm not the only one, it really helps to build that sense of confidence. And also we just have some students who are like, I just want to get the answer and, you know, move on. So to have a library of things that they can draw from, I think helps them also quite a bit. But
So
we totally agree that it's about human connection. Sorry, Tiffany, did I jump on you there?
no, so we have a clarifying question. So are the moderators in your community specifically the success coaches, or who would typically be a moderator?
That is a great question. Yes, as of right now, the 4 moderators are all for student success coaches that coach, facilitate PACA, and also moderate the PackALobby, such as myself.
In other cases, we have communities that are moderated by faculty. Some communities are moderated by TAs, some by advisors, some by tutoring centers. Again, it kind of depends on the design of the community, but moderators can really be drawn from lots of different places. So I think one of the great things that, you know, we've talked about is this idea of peer-to-peer support and engagement. And, you know, we just have one example here, but I'm curious, what's been your experience with that, Tiffany? Do you find students are kind of jumping in to help each other?
It is so beautiful how they just hop on, and it was from day one, you know, just starting off PACA, like, how do I do this? How do I even sign, you know, how do I even start my first assignment? And students do not hesitate to hop on and answer the questions. And sometimes, depending on the question, we'll purposefully let it sit. Especially if it's something like, what kind of computer do you use? Or, you know, how did you come up with a topic for your assignment? So we'll let it sit maybe a couple of hours or maybe even 24. And 9 times out of 10, a student will come in and answer those specific questions. So back to the other question, how we just post resources and really the human connection. Sometimes we purposefully push for that connection.
I love that. I love it. Letting the students take the lead, you know, when it's appropriate, when it works. And we don't have it illustrated here, but there's also a feature in Inscribed where if a student provides a great answer, one of the moderators can endorse that answer. So they get a little icon on their response, and the student gets the sort of credit and accolade of having provided a really good support experience for their peers in the community.
I haven't even told Tiffany this, but we're about to roll out, looking at if there's a particular person that's answering a lot of questions, sending them swag just to say thank you for helping our students. And that starts in 2 weeks, but I haven't even told her yet. So don't be surprised, but yeah, we try to, because we want to encourage students to be active in it all the time. So that's one way to do that.
What a great idea. Yeah, and you can really sort of identify and promote student leadership in these spaces because it's not required. It's not necessarily part of their grade, but it's really about them stepping forward and putting themselves out there, which I think, as you said, Tiffany, is really beautiful to see. This is something we've touched on a little bit. Certainly, the answers being there and other people tapping into them, but I think we see this a lot too, where it's somebody asks a question and the student doesn't know the answer, but they're like, yes, great question. Me too, me too, me too. Do you find that also happens quite a bit, Tiffany? And do you guys handle those any differently, or how do you think about it?
Can you rephrase that, Katie? What were you asking specifically?
Yeah, so do you see a lot of times where a question gets asked and you'll find that like, oh, actually many students had this question and it wasn't just that one person, and you're able to kind of handle answering 10 students' questions at one time versus having to do that one at a time?
Yeah, absolutely. So it really is personable. So there isn't like a way maybe to just respond to everyone. So even if all students are asking the same question, we do have to respond to each student separately, which goes back to that personal communication. So even if 5 students in the same day, say for instance, if where they submit their videos is down, that application, if 5 students that day post that the video is down, we have to go in and respond to each student. However, it doesn't take that long because we already know it's an issue. So it might sound redundant, but they definitely get that individual support, regardless if it's the same question or not.
Awesome.
What's awesome is normally that would have been, 20 phone calls to the student helpline. And now we get to solve that problem without the 20 calls.
Right, centralize it in one location, make it really visible and save that time.
And 2, if students already see that it's an issue, then they don't really. So maybe 2 or 3 posts, and then after that, they'll read it and then they'll just know it's an issue. So they don't really, if it's an ongoing issue, they don't keep coming back.
They don't keep reposting over and over and over. Well, and these were all great examples of kind of tactical help and support. I don't understand something or something's not working, but this next slide I thought has some great examples of just, students wanting to connect with other students, which I think we've also seen quite a lot of in the PackALobby. And is this something you guys had encouraged the students to do, or did they just do this organically? How did that work?
So if I'm being honest, us moderators, we actually started this connections. And so once a week when Inscribed first, or when the PackALobby first rolled out, we would go in once a week and post, because the idea of the PackALobby was community. It wasn't really meant to go to ask questions, which it is total 100%. They can ask questions, but it was really community based, very similar to the Baby Owls Facebook page, but just in-house and moderated. And so to start us off, since this is the kind of community that we wanted, we try to post light posts to kind of get the ball rolling. And so those were like really the first posts that we made were the like happy posts, if you will. And so once students started, as you can see, 16 students, 13 students, 8 students, once they started collaborating on those happy posts, if you will, then they got a little bit more comfortable posting questions and actually asking in the PackALobby. So it was a great way for us that we decided to break the ice.
Yeah, I think that goes right back to the question we had earlier, like what are the best practices for helping to build community? Model the behavior that you want to see in your space, right? Understand what you want your space to be and then demonstrate that behavior. And I think you said it perfectly. It helps to get the ball rolling and get people more confident and excited about participating. All right, we're going to roll into, I think we are going to roll into some analytics, Danielle. So do you want to pause and handle a few more questions if they've come in before we do that?
I think you've answered most of them. So there was a question about using how Facebook excuse me, in Facebook, you do a lot of scrolling, right? And so you talked about the search feature and even the AI feature within the product, and the solution that we have for, instead of scrolling, now you're searching, right? Students should come in and they should search to start to ask their question. So I think we've answered that one. Let's see here. Again, it's a lot of questions about the searching feature and ensuring that we don't have repeated questions in the product.
Well, and there's, you know, we didn't set this up for a demo today. I will talk though. We do have a demo coming up on Friday, which I'll talk about at the end of the meeting. But so today in Inscribe, ways that we help to prevent or to help connect students to answers more quickly. Obviously, we have the search feature. It's a full text search, so it searches across all conversations and resources and topics. But we also have, when a student goes to ask a question or create a post, we have what we call a technology assistant called Rosie, who lives in each of the communities. And one of the things that Rosie does today is, as the student's starting to type their question, Rosie will recommend right in line existing answers or resources that might help that student out. So we're essentially understanding the content of the post and trying to redirect them if that content is useful so they can get that answer really quickly. And then coming soon, we are going to start using a deeper level of natural language processing to automatically group conversations together that we think are either identical or similar, so that moderators can more easily, you know, answer them as a collection, or in certain cases do like a deduplication. So I've got 5 questions, they're all the same. I'm going to deduplicate these down to 1 that becomes like the question and answer in the repository. So we think a lot about that. I also saw, you know, Jeff kind of got a lot of great questions and feedback. So the other side of that coin is, if you're saving content and answers over time, eventually some of that content is going to become outdated, or, you know, the answer is going to change a little bit. And so one of the things that Rosie will be doing in the future, of course, you can archive content in the community. Some people choose, when they roll the community over year to only carry forward certain pieces of content and not everything. And Rosie's going to become a facilitator of that process. So again, using natural language processing, identifying content that is likely to be outdated based on date or how old that piece of content is, and surface that automatically to moderators so they can make a faster decision about things that they might want to clear out. So we'll do our best with the technology to facilitate that process. And then, you know, to a certain extent, you're also relying on your community to help support that as well.
Perfect. We're all caught up on questions.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's look at some of the data in terms of what's been happening in these communities. So the Academy community is still relatively young, but we have seen some great engagement data. And what I love about this graph, so this is really looking at essentially sort of your active membership day over day. And what I love about this graph is how consistent it is. Of course, you can see when the weekends are. It's very obvious about weekends and holidays. And just like the consistency, though, that you've seen in terms of your student participation, and it not waning over time, but students remaining enthusiastic. And Tiffany, I don't know if you have any thoughts on like how students are feeling about the community and whether you're continuing to see them participate there or ramp up their participation levels.
It's pretty consistent as the graph shows. And I think in part with, you know, the coaches advocating for it, with us advocating for it in PACA, and then even when they go in the first time for support and how immediate it is, then it just, you know, then they just know that that's like the place to go. So I think with all those things helps with the consistency.
Yeah, and that I think is a really important point, which is if you do intend to put out a digital community, having a commitment to that community is important at the institution level. So make sure that questions are being answered in some reasonable amount of time, reinforcing for students that this is the place to go. That's what will drive the behavior so that you get that consistent model. And then, we see something similar in terms of the posts, lots of different types of posts taking place, a pretty good clip, but not an overwhelming clip of questions coming in. So that's the other thing I think sometimes people worry about is all of a sudden I'm going to get 1,000 questions in here and not be able to manage it. And I don't think that's been your experience, has it?
Not at all. With 4 moderators, and we started off with just a couple of us, and so we just added more. But even when we had just a couple, it was and I think just because it's so real time, that helps with it not being so overwhelming.
Absolutely, and a ton of views on the content that's in there. So people sometimes forget that is also a really important type of engagement, just looking at the content that's there and engaging with it. So I love that particular concept as well. And then Cherie, I think you're going to just tell us a little bit about sort of outside of Inscribe, one of the data points that you had shared with us around, other mechanisms of communication.
Yeah, definitely. I just go back to the last slide for a second. You don't have to go back, but a point I really like about this. So I oversee the product team and the instructional designers. And so us knowing which resource is getting viewed the most completely changes or doesn't change our strategy in terms of our student resources to help them get through a course. This feature is so helpful to us, and being able to read the questions as an instructional designer and know where my instructions for this assignment, they're not going well. Right? So these data points are essential to what we do in changing and iterating on our product. It's one of my favorite parts because that's what I do. But I love that students are getting their questions answered. But these data points, I think, are just a nice bonus to have.
That is, we should have emphasized that more. That's such an important point. And because the questions are all tagged to topics that relate back to the content in the course, you can even see, oh, wow, in week 2, what we were learning was really confusing. We got a lot of questions. And to your point, maybe we can use that information to improve the curriculum for the next set of learners. So great point, and super relevant.
Yeah, so we were, anytime you start something new, a new application, you're not sure, like, how is this really going to impact what we do, our processes? We hoped for this, but we were never, you just never know. And like you said, we haven't been in business that long with Inscribe, but year over year, we've seen a 23% drop in our student support tickets. And for, just starting out in February, this is a pretty significant drop that we're very happy about, because that can change your staffing models, that can change your time to reach students, because we obviously monitor how fast and quickly we can answer a student's question, and this all impacts that. So this is just one data point we are loving right now, that we are reducing those tickets for sure.
Awesome. That's why I agree. And it depends on the institution, what the metrics that they're really focused on, but even within the idea that, let's say that instead of your support coaches or your support team, it's your faculty member is getting, 23% less direct emails from students because they've implemented Inscribe. Now that faculty member can spend that time doing one-on-one coaching or, high value activities, and not saying, to 30 different emails, just click the button on the left, just click the button.
If I can, exactly. If I can hop on too and say, to Cherie's point, not only does it help with her, with the courses and the course curriculum, it also helps us as moderators to go back to even tell our coaches what's going well in PACA and what's not, and then they're able to, change the way that they facilitate too, depending on the specific questions that our students have. So it can go, all, full circle.
Yes, I think when you give students the opportunity to tell you what they're thinking, you learn a lot about your students and what they're struggling with and what they're worried about. And, to your point, all great information that you can then use to be a better coach or better faculty member in your relationships with them. So lots of great insights. So, I want to make sure, we've had so many great questions and such great engagement from the audience. I want to make sure we pause and see if anything else has come in, Danielle, or if there's anything we missed early on that we want to make sure we touch on.
I don't know that we've missed anything at this point. I would just ask that if anybody has any questions, to please either put them in the chat or in the Q&A feature, and we'll go ahead and stay a couple more minutes to answer them.
Perfect. Yes. So don't be shy. If there's anything you're still curious about or worried about or excited about, let us know. We definitely want to chat with you about that. But while we're waiting for that, I just want to thank again, Dr. Kroh and Tiffany Baldonado for joining us today. Just love your story. I love the work that you guys are doing. The on-ramp to post-secondary is so important. And we just really appreciate you sharing your insights with us today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This was super fun.
We'll do it again.
Yeah.
I also wanted to let everyone know that I mentioned this. So this is actually a series of webinars. And so on Friday, we're going to be diving deep into Inscribe itself and actually looking at the community design, some of the features that we talked about today. I believe as having signed up for this series, you will automatically be signed up for that session on Friday. So you'll look for that invitation. I hope that you all can join us for that as well. So that'll be 11 a.m. Mountain Time. And I will also be there to help lead that session. And we have one additional webinar that I want to let you know about coming up on Wednesday, July 21st. We will be joined by Teresa Gonzalez from Miami-Dade College, and she will also be talking about how they're using digital communities, in her case, sort of outside of the classroom to help students connect more easily with student services. In that case, we're working specifically with Miami-Dade STEM students, but it's a wraparound community that gives them access to all kinds of student services, including peer support. And so if you're available, please register and join us for that conversation as well. Any last minute questions or chats?
Yeah, we have a couple that came in. One through the Q&A. How many total students do you have within your communities?
Tiffany, do you know that?
Bree, do you know the answer to that? How many students total do we have?
Oh, I don't off the top of my head. Generally, we're getting close to 50% are in Inscribe and being, generally active.
Yeah. So
But,
if you,
yeah.
and we have communities that are, 50 or 100 participants, and then we have one community that's like 60,000 participants. So the platform is designed kind of for all shapes and sizes, but in your case, you're in the sort of high hundreds, thousand, low thousands, I think, in terms of.
I mean, we get 1,000 new students a month. So if you think, one of the reasons why we went with Inscribe is the scalability. We expect in 2 years to have around 5,000 students per month new coming in. So we're a very short-term program. So I think it can handle thousands and thousands and thousands, like you said, 60,000. So
What?
Someday
maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
Katie, talk to us about implementation a little bit. How long does it take to get something like this set up?
So implementation can go as quickly as a week. It really involved just, figuring out the community design, and we have templates that we can provide, depending on the flavor of community you want to roll out. We give you a template and you can customize it from there. We'll do the technical integration, but we use all standard stuff, LTI, OAuth, so that is once we get connected with the right person, tends to go very quickly. And then we'll do virtual training for you and whoever you want to be participating in the community, and then we can launch. So anywhere from, I'd say, if we really went fast and furious, we could get it up in a week. I'd say on average, it's probably closer to 3 to 4 weeks. But coming into the fall here, we've got our delivery team ready to go. So we are very committed to getting everybody out and up for the fall.
And if I can add to that, I would say one positive really too is that it's so personable for what we need at the Academy. And so if we come to Inscribe and say, we need this feature, or can you even add, something as simple, can you add bios to the page? It happens very quickly. So the partnership is really good. And I like how personable it is to the Academy and what we need.
Well, thank you, Tiffany. That's
Yeah, I think we asked for the English lobby and we had it in 3 days. Because it was already set up for PACA, so it's a lot quicker and faster, but I think we literally had it up in 3 days. So, awesome. All right, let's go.
Yeah. And we definitely, we believe that all of our relationships are partnerships, and we love that collaboration. So I appreciate you hearing that as well.
And then this last piece in here is not necessarily a question, but Jeff shared our IU use case, Katie, so Indiana University. And he shared a link to how Indiana University is using Inscribe.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so we have some other webinars and other examples, including Indiana University. So thank you, Jeff, for putting that out there. And we really appreciate it. So if we don't have any other questions, I just want to thank you all again for joining us. Big thanks to our co-hosts today for sharing their story, and please look out for some follow-up communication from us. And I hope to see you all on Friday for that deep dive on Inscribe.
Thank you for having us.